Hello and welcome to a live Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri, and I see some familiar faces in the chat. Thanks for being here. We're going live at 4 o'clock Central today, so a little later than usual, a couple hours later. It's because I've been on this whirlwind trip with my husband to New York. We got back at 4 in the morning, and so I appreciate you guys. We were traveling all day yesterday, and then we got home at 4 a.m. And I was like, there's no way. I'm not going to make any sense if I try to do a live show any earlier than this. So I appreciate your patience. Thanks for being here. And it's good to be back. Hey, Skillet Actual. I'm trying to remember now. I might be getting you confused. Are you the person I almost met up with? No. There were several missed opportunities in New York of people I didn't get to see. We did get to see some friends, and there were other people in New York. I think what we'll do is next time I go, I'll have more advance notice, and we'll do a meetup in New York, because it turned out a lot of people were messaging me and saying, "Why aren't we getting together? Let's get together." So we tried to see as many folks as we could, but we didn't have a lot of time. He had music commitments. We had commitments with some of my husband's friends. And so it was really fun, though. I'll just say, if you haven't been to New York in a while, it was great fun visiting. And it was, it's not a place I want to live. I lived there for a short time years ago, but I do enjoy visiting. We went to St. Patrick's Cathedral, which was gorgeous. We also spent some time upstate. Let me show you this. There were several people when I shared this who were familiar with it, and I had never heard of this. I'm going to show you. Let's see. Here we go. This is a place called Olana. It's in upstate New York, and it's the home of Frederick Church, who was a painter, an artist. I had not heard of him. He and his wife, Isabel Church, they lived here. They started building this place. I'm sure you put a few pictures. Look at these fireplaces. They started building this place in the 1860s, and it's up on this hillside, and they had all this land. And when Frederick Church's, you can see there's a lot of his art that's displayed in the home, plus the art of his mentors and other people. But the whole house is a work of art. It's just gorgeous. Of course, I was getting ideas for our renovation. I'm like taking pictures of everything. It's just beautiful. Our friends took us here, and look at this. It's, inspiration from all over the world, like different styles of design from all the places they traveled. They started building this after the death of two of their children, really tragic period of grief that they went through. And then he did this painting called Afterglow about losing two of his kids. They had all kinds of guests who would come over to this house, including Mark Twain. And it is said, the tour guide was telling us that he took us into the study, and it was sort of saying every morning, if they had house guests, the house guests would join them in the study with all their children reading from the Bible. We were just kind of like, that's just amazing. It's just a good practice. We were thinking also of Mark Twain. Reading from the Bible is kind of funny. Yeah, look at it. Luxurious, like the velvets. It's so pretty. If you were in upstate New York and you haven't heard of this place, go check it out. It's near Hudson. I'd never even heard of this artist. And he was one of the few artists he was very successful during his lifetime. He sold a lot of art during his lifetime. But once he got rheumatoid arthritis, he couldn't paint as much. And so he started using all of the property here at Olana, which is what they called their home. He became what they called a landscape artist. So he and his wife planted thousands and thousands of trees. He basically, instead of painting landscapes, he was designing the landscape, like where to put the trails for the horse-drawn carriages, where to put the ponds, what kinds of trees to plant, look at this, just gorgeous. This was their dining room. This is the outside. It's got a very Moroccan kind of look to it. Yeah, that's me and my husband on the porch. The doors. I just loved the doors. Okay. That's enough of that. Hey, Eclectic Company says, hey, I remember this show. Hello, everyone. Hello, good to see you. My husband's here. Hello, Anthony Garcia. Music. Anthony's the reason we got to visit New York. He had a show up there. ADL says Twain was a deist. I think he had a complicated relationship with religion. I think so. Yes, that's why that anecdote about him reading the Bible is very interesting. Hey, Mr. Tickle Trunk is here. Mr. Tickle Trunk, welcome for $2 Canadian. Thanks for supporting Deprogrammed. Says protesting is like makeup. You can't use it too much. No, that's not true, Mr. Tickle Trunk. You can use it too much. That's the whole point. I know you're being sarcastic. That's the whole point. The left. We're talking about the protests today. We're talking about the protest that happened over the weekend called Hands Off. Now, if you're not on the left, you may not have even heard of these protests. It's pretty funny because like Mr. Tickle Trunk is kind of joking here, but they've protested so much and they're so histrionic and they're so out of touch that I don't think the protests have an impact anymore. No one even, and we don't even notice them. Like my husband and I didn't even know they were happening until we met some folks who had been at the protests in New York. And we met some people who had been there. And so then I was reading about it online and I was looking to see, what the turnout was like and why didn't anyone even know that this was going on? Nobody's really paying attention anymore. I hesitated even doing a show about it because I feel like people who are based or people who are not in that woke world, we don't really care. It's sort of like you guys are just you're always gonna do that. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And so I almost didn't even talk about it, but I thought I would. And here's why. Because I still have friends who are in that leftist bubble who get all of their news from the mainstream corporate media who I would say, without trying to be, I'm not trying to be condescending, but I would say get a very limited, narrow perspective on things. And they don't know, in my opinion, they don't really know what's going on in the world. And they don't understand why Trump was elected. They hold a lot of the beliefs about him that the media has programmed them with that I don't think they've really put to the test in a lot of conversations with people, who voted for him to see if these things are true. And so I'm going to talk about the hands-off protests for any of my friends, anybody, maybe your friends who are on the left, who went to these protests, who thought they're a big deal, who don't understand what's happening in the world. This is going to be another kind of episode of trying to explain what is going on to people who are in that leftist world who are out of touch. And if you don't think you're out of touch, I would ask you, just be honest. Aren't you the same people who ask, like, why would people vote for him? Why would this happen? Why would, you don't really know what's going on. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm just saying I was in that echo chamber that you're in. I was in that world for a long time. You get a tiny sliver of information when you're in that echo chamber, and it is manipulated. You're not given facts. You're given a point of view. And this is why in conversations with people, a lot of times you don't know if you're open-minded enough to have conversations, which I know a lot of you on the left are. I've had those conversations with you. Sometimes it's sort of like, well, I don't know. Once we get into the nitty-gritty, you're like, well, I don't know those things. Well, that's because you're not meant to know those things in that echo chamber. I say that having been in it. Here's a good example. This, hey, Force of Light. What's up, Michelle? It's so good to be back. Good to see you. Hey, Therese. Okay. Let me give an example. When you're in that leftist world, that bubble, it's like a fish in water and the fish doesn't see the water. You don't even see the propaganda, the manipulation around you. I didn't when I was in it because it's all around you. You're swimming in it. And you don't start to see it until you actively take steps to get out of that bubble and to try and understand people who think differently than you. And by trying to get out of that bubble and trying to understand people who think differently than you, that doesn't mean you have to change. I'm not trying to scare you and say you have to change your opinion. I'm just saying, trust me, you should try to get out of that bubble and understand people a little more. you're going to be in possession of so many more facts that are going to help you shape and come to understand what are your real opinions on things, and evaluate individual things individually instead of having sort of this tribal mentality put on you. I say this to people on the right too. If you're in a bubble on the right, I happen to think currently where we exist in modern society, it's more of the people on the left who are in the bubble. But there are some on the right who are. I know this. It's just not. It's not comparable in terms of size. Most of the people on the left are in this bubble. So here's an example. If you're in a leftist town like Georgetown, Texas, right? Or gosh, where were we? My husband and I were in Montana, in Bozeman, Montana. We went into a leftist bookstore. If you go into a woke bookstore or upstate New York, this place I was at, you can notice this censorship and this point of view and this manipulation and this like little bubble that you're in really easily. It's almost like a metaphor. It's a small micro example that shows you what's happening on the large scale. You go into the bookstore, look at their political section, look at their religious section, look at their history section, and really try and be objective about what they have there. A lot of times woke bookstores, and someone like me, it's not like I'm going to complain about it. I don't get my feelings hurt that they don't have a diverse selection of books and points of view, but I notice it. I at least notice it. And those of you who are still in the leftist bubble, you don't even notice it. You're just like, oh, this is all of history, or this is all of religion. This is what we need and want. No, it's one point of view. It's one point of view. It's all leftist, social justice, woke ideology point of view. One of these bookstores, the one that we were in Montana, my husband and I, they had a huge religious section, which we were shocked. We were like, whoa. And my husband was looking for he was looking for the Christianity section and couldn't find it because they didn't have one. But they had a section for Islam, Hinduism. They had a section for Native American, like tribal religions. They had stuff about witchcraft. They had, like Satanism. Like they had all of this stuff, like tarot, spirituality, mindfulness. They had a section criticizing Christianity. They did not have a Christianity section. Can you imagine just like the depth of philosophy and literature and history that they're missing because they specifically choose not to carry any positive books about Christianity? They had no C.S. Lewis, right? This bookstore I went to in New York in the upstate, same thing. They didn't have a huge religious section. They just had one small section called spirituality, but no C.S. Lewis. I went and asked just to make sure because there was a book I was looking for. No C.S. Lewis, nothing. They had a lot of mindfulness books. They had some like Eckhart Tolle, that kind of stuff, which I've read and I like. They had Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Native American religions, and then get this, they had books critical of Christianity. They had Christopher Hitchens, who I respect and think is very smart, but his books are, I forget what they're called. He's very aggressively atheist. And so all of their books about Christianity were attacking Christianity. It was like, God is bad and why you shouldn't believe in God. And like, they had nothing there. They had one, I should say, let me take that back. They had Confessions. That was it. That was if you're looking, you're not going to stumble in a bookstore like that. You're not going to stumble across something that might make you think about God differently. You're just going to get that anti-Christian point of view. By the way, they had an LGBT section that was huge, bigger than the entire spirituality section. LGBTQ, and right up in a prime spot of the store, was like 8 shelves high, all the way up to the ceiling. That's a religion, by the way. LGBTQ, the way it's pushed, it's a religion. So, they had that religious section. But if you want to look at how, if you don't believe, if you're on the left, you're listening, just start to pay attention, if you can, critically, with your eyes open, when you go into a book, your favorite bookstore. Check and see, do they have different points of view in the politics section? You may not even know what different points of view are because you only see the one. So again, this is why you kind of have to get out of your bubble and say, like, well, what are people reading who disagree with me, and what are they interested in, and who do they follow, and what are my opinions about those people? If you just write those people off without even investigating, then you don't hold, then your opinion is not your own, you know? Like, for example, if you're a leftist, you may decide you uh, you dislike Candace Owens, for example, because she's a Black woman and you think she's a conservative. I no longer think that. But you may think, I don't like, well, I no longer like this lady either. I no longer like what she's doing in the world. I think she's doing a lot of damage. But I've listened to her. I've watched her. I've read what she says. I'm familiar with her. Whereas a lot of times as leftists, you don't have any depth to the opinion. It's what's known as a received opinion. And this is why I think in conversations, sometimes some of you get a little like uncomfortable or emotional when talking, because even if we are not trying to, it sort of becomes obvious to you that you don't have a lot of argumentation to back up the opinions, because the opinion was handed to you. See, I say this as someone who's been through it. All of my opinions used to be handed to me, all of them, when I was in the woke world. So ADL 1992 for $1.99. Thanks for supporting the channel. ADL says, I have definitely noticed this with bookstores. Yeah, it's a microcosm for what happens in the world at large, isn't it? Kat says, in the small leftist college town next door, I went to a small bookstore and asked if they carried Thomas Sowell. The owner's brain nearly exploded. Thomas Sowell is one of the most brilliant economists in the US. Like, they should have his books. But you know what? He's a Black man who doesn't speak woke, and he's a genius. So they're not going to carry him. But that's a good test. If you're on the left, let me tell you, when I was in the woke world, I didn't even know who Thomas Sowell was. You may not know. And that's a disservice of the leftist bubble you're in. And yeah, they usually don't have him. Andrew Knapp, if you go into a woke bookstore in New York, you could have just said any bookstore in New York. True. Liberty, I thought, oh, hey, Liberty's watching over at Rumble. If you guys don't like YouTube, you can check us out there. Liberty 0000 says, I thought Georgetown leans conservative. Georgetown's leftist. Let me tell you, girl, there is a war happening for the soul of Georgetown, Texas right now. And there's a lot of people moving into Georgetown from Austin who are getting pushed out because a lot of Californians and people from Colorado and stuff are moving to Austin, New Yorkers and stuff moving to Austin. So Austin's becoming a lot more expensive. And either way you look at it, you've got a lot of leftist people coming into Austin, and then leftist people coming from directly from California and these places coming into Georgetown, and coming from Austin into Georgetown. And there is a battle happening over the soul of Georgetown. The Black Lives Matter activists are out there. It's all old white people. It's all old white boomers. Of course, I didn't have to tell you that. If you're based, you know who it is. It's wealthy white boomers. They are the Black Lives Matter movement of Georgetown. They are out every Saturday on our town square. They've been for years. They're trying to get the Georgetown monument, the monument to Confederate soldiers, removed. They've already successfully removed all of the memorial bricks that were around our town square, because I think it was something like 13 out of 1,000 of them or something were memorial bricks for soldiers. It was such a small percentage. It was ridiculous. They removed all of the memorial bricks, and they're out there pushing this woke ideology every week. And in their private groups on Georgetown, I'm in some of their groups, they mock and they belittle Black conservatives who show up and confront them. They post videos of Black conservatives and call them house N-words. They use racist terminology like the woke do in private. They're, a lot of them, in my opinion, very disgusting people. But yeah, that's what's happening. There is a bookstore in Georgetown that is super woke. It's the kind of store where you go in and it's just LGBT propaganda, right when you first walk in. All the books that they have displayed, it's like Ta-Nehisi Coates, it's Robin DiAngelo, it's all critical race theory, DEI, rainbow agenda stuff. It's all the cult of woke. And then they have, funny, ironic stickers, but they're all sexist towards men or racist towards white people. Like, it's that kind of stuff where they have like stickers. Like, they have a sticker of a girl drinking from a mug or a cup of tea or something, and it says, I drink your male tears. Like, like they have that kind of ridiculous feminist woke shit. So that's what's happening in Georgetown. But hey, if you're in Georgetown, Texas, there are people pushing back against this. You're welcome. I should mention this more often. You're welcome to visit our church. I have a great church community. We meet at 2:00 on Sundays. We meet at Main Street Baptist, but we are a different church. Our church is called Church on the Square, and Main Street Baptist is kind enough to let us rent from them in the afternoons on Sundays. So 2:00 on Sundays at the Main Street Baptist. Okay. ADL 1992 for $4.99. Thanks for supporting the channel, dude. Says, it does anger me that righties don't do more about this. What's stopping you from opening a bookstore, conservatives? Yes. And, I actually appreciate the ones that have a little mixture of both. I'm cool with the ones, like, if you wanted to open something that's just conservative bookstore, oh, you can bet the people on the left would notice it, right? They would go in there and feel like they were in a foreign country. Like, what is this? Who's Thomas Sowell or whatever? Like, they would definitely see it if it wasn't their ideology, right? But I have a lot of respect for the bookstores that try and maintain sort of a neutral ground. There was a bookstore my husband and I went to in, I think it was Cody, Wyoming. We were very impressed because they had some of the woke stuff, but it wasn't on prominent display, like trying to promote it, trying to say, this is what you need to be reading. It was just in there with everything else. And they also had conservative writers and thinkers, and they had Thomas Sowell, and they had a Christianity section, so they had both. And that's really, isn't that what we want? Like a diversity of opinion that you can go in and maybe stumble across something that makes you think differently, or, that's not just like feeding you propaganda. MAGA woman, just off work, tuning in now. Hi, Keri from Florida. Hello, welcome. Is that a cookie in your avatar? It's making me hungry. Okay. So Rasmik says, boomers are the most brainwashed generation. You know what? I don't know. They might be. I think they might be. And this is not to be ageist or whatever, because I know a lot of boomers who are also fully awake and based, but it seems to me, based on a lot of the protests, the pictures from the protests that happened this weekend, that there are a lot of boomers who really, their understanding of the world hasn't evolved since the 60s or the 70s. In fact, they often mention the 60s and the 70s at the protests. They don't really understand what's going on in the world. They don't understand that the left became the fascists during the COVID years. They don't understand that, suddenly the reason why all these people like myself are leaving the left, all these liberals voting for Trump. Do you know why we did that? Because the left became the baddies. The left is out there pimping and pushing big pharma, corporations, censorship, government censorship. Yes, it matters. Yes, it matters very much. Biden's administration was sitting down. They were sending 3-letter agencies weekly to sit down with people at Twitter and at Facebook and to direct them on which doctors and scientists to censor and take offline. During one of the biggest medical emergencies, the widest reaching medical emergencies in our country's history, they were actively censoring doctors and scientists. The government was doing that, finding a convenient way around the First Amendment by leaning on corporations to do it for them. That's disgusting. You want to know why liberals left? The left. It's huge. It's huge. And I don't understand abandoning all of your principles just to stay in some identity, because identity is very important to people, right? And a lot of people have built their identity around being quote unquote left or right. And I think that's a dangerous thing, because if we do that, it keeps us from having our eyes open. Labels don't matter that much. They don't. If they did, I would have stayed in the woke, if they mattered, I would have stayed in the woke left, like a lot of lefties have done, because they think labels matter. They don't matter. I've been called all kinds of things since I left the left, I get called racist and Nazi and extreme right wing and all this stuff. And now the woke right people are calling me a woke leftist and a libtard. They're calling me the exact opposite. They're calling me all these crazy things. It doesn't matter. It's not true. If it doesn't describe me, it shouldn't bother you unless there's truth to it. If there's no truth to it, why does it bother you? So Kendra says, I'm a boomer. It was the teens in the 60s that lost their minds then and now. Probably all the drugs they were doing back then. LOL. Girl, I'm glad you said that, because that you're a boomer and that you're awake. Because I know a lot of boomers who are awake. So this is not just a call out. Like, I know a lot of people on the right love just, demonizing boomers, which I'm not here to do. I do think that they are, for some reason, a little more susceptible to mainstream propaganda. Isn't that crazy? Because they were the hippies and the rebels in the 60s and 70s, but now they are a little more susceptible to authoritative sources feeding them propaganda. Like, they put a lot of trust in institutions like corporate media. Why do they do that? And corporate media lies to us over and over. They put a lot of faith and trust into our government. Why? Why? These are the same people who were criticizing the government about the Vietnam War. And it's like, why are you putting all this trust? So let's look at a couple things. First of all, I want to look at some of the ways that leftists covered the protests. So we're going to start with a boomer. We're going to start with Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman, which, when I was in the leftist world, I used to watch her all the time. She is now in the age group that you see that are mostly the people who were protesting this weekend are in this same age group. Here we go.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We look now at the massive protests that erupted Saturday as over 1 million people took to the streets nationwide to tell President Trump and billionaire Elon Musk hands off, saying no to the Trump administration's dismantling of federal agencies and social programs and its attacks on LGBTQ people, immigrants, education, healthcare, science, free speech, and reproductive.
So the way they just rattle off these things, first of all, if you're in the leftist world, welcome. I know a lot of you hear this stuff so much when you're in that cult. Like, I used to hear it all the time, and you just rattle it off. But if you try and scratch beneath the surface and have a conversation with you guys about what does this mean, there's not a lot of depth to it. So when they just rattle off stuff like attacks on LGBTQ people, like, what does that mean? How has he attacked LGBTQ people? I'm truly asking. He's the first president. Trump was the first president to enter office in 2016 supporting gay marriage. He was the first. Obama didn't enter office supporting gay marriage. Trump did. A lot of you who are on the left, you have no idea how many gays and lesbians voted for Trump. And he doubled the percentage of the vote he got in that community, if you want to put it in quotes. He doubled his percentage of that vote. I wonder if you know any people who are gay and lesbian who are conservative. I'm assuming you don't. And doesn't that concern you if you're on the left? If you believe in diversity, does that not mean diversity of opinion? Are you not interested in, if you're in that little bubble, which I was in it for a long time, I view it a little bit like a cult, but are you not interested in meeting someone who doesn't fit your stereotype? There are a lot of conservative gays and lesbians. A lot of them in my chats sometimes. Like, you can meet people. If you need help meeting people outside of your bubble, that is one of my favorite things to do. I will introduce you to people, whether it's sending you videos of people to check out or actually introducing you to folks. I'm happy to do it. But when they say stuff like that, like attacks on LGBTQ people, do you know how many gay and lesbian people and also trans people who think that's ridiculous? Like, what are you talking about? How is he attacking LGBTQ people? What does that even mean? Define that. Define that. And if you try and scratch below the surface, usually what you find out, if they do know anything and they can point to anything, a lot of times they will point to the laws and restrictions that we're talking about on children, on mutilating and sterilizing children. They're very specific. It's not saying that Trump is not like, hey, nobody can decide to get a surgery to remove their breasts or whatever. No. It's very specific. It's about kids. And if you don't understand why that is different, I mean, really think hard about that. Why is that different? Why are kids singled out? Why are kids carved out? Why do we carve out kids in all of our laws? We don't allow kids to have sex with adults, even if they quote unquote consent. We would never even use that language. Even if the kid is saying, no, I wanted to, we would never use that language. How did they get you, a rational, thinking, feeling, loving person? How did they get you to defend that? To defend mutilating children, sterilizing them for life, and saying that they know it. They know what they're doing. They're consenting. They want it. They want it. That's disgusting. We don't do it for anything else. Our laws carve out children. We recognize that they are different, that they are developmentally different. We protect them. They are the very least of us. More than any of these other groups that fight to be, seen as the most oppressed. Children are actually the least among us, the most vulnerable. Our laws protect them for a reason. We don't allow them to have sex with adults. Even if they quote unquote consent, we don't allow them to buy alcohol or buy cigarettes or drive cars, get a driver's license. We don't allow them to go and buy a gun when they're kids. We don't allow them to get a tattoo. Oh my goodness. We don't allow them to get a tattoo, even if they quote unquote, they consent. They know what they're doing. That's bullshit. They don't. What's the harm in waiting? Like we do with everything else until they're adults. So I'll continue. I know we barely got into this, but just listen to the stuff she rattles off, because so often I hear people on the left rattle off this stuff, and you'll notice in this whole video, they never go in depth on anything. It's all surface level characterizations. It's all vague. Oh, attacks on LGBT. Oh, attacks on women. What are you talking about? Do you ever talk about anything with specifics, with facts? Or is it this emotional kind of, he's the worst person in the world? I think you'll be able to see through this little video that it's the latter.
Healthcare, science, free speech, and reproductive rights. The coordinated hands-off protests are the largest demonstrations since President Trump.
Science? How is he anti-science? Okay, I can't do this for everyone, but that's another one that's just insane that they would even say that.
Turned to office. They took place across all 50 states and across the world. In Europe, thousands gathered in Berlin, Paris, and London to respond to Trump's sweeping tariffs, which have shocked the global economy. This is a banker speaking from London.
He's a horrible, small-minded person who is easily maneuvered, and the people who are maneuvering him are very, very, very dangerous.
Okay, so I think this more accurately describes Joe Biden, actually, who was being manipulated, who wasn't even cognitively there. But you'll notice, regardless of whether this is a better description of Trump or Biden, but regardless, it's still a characterization of him as a person. This woman never gets into specifics about why she thinks he's a horrible, small. Why do you think he's a horrible, small, mean person? Why do you think he's evil? Can you give me some reasons? If you guys on the left ever, those of you who do try to have conversations with us, you will find that we're able to articulate things, specific policies and things that we disagree with. I too believe Biden was a horrible, small-minded person who was being manipulated by evil people. I believe the same thing she's saying about Trump. I believe that about Biden. But if you ask me why, I'm able to tell you. He was passing executive orders. For example, he was passing executive orders pushing racist indoctrination into schools and into our government. He wanted to teach people to judge each other on the basis of race and sex. He was pushing DEI. It said this stuff explicitly in his EOs. I covered several of the EOs I disagreed with. He made statements in support of sterilizing and mutilating children. These are evil. These are immoral, unethical things. They're, direct examples I can give you of things I disagreed with. He was letting unchecked numbers of people come into our country illegally. And it turns out he was giving millions of them social security numbers, not legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, taking our tax dollars through social security and letting millions of them vote. So there are, specific things I can point to and policies, but these guys, like, they don't on the left. I'm just telling you, if you're on the left, if you want to, presumably these people are out here protesting because they want people to listen to them and adopt their point of view. But the tactics that they use it's more akin to like the way that you would get people to join cults, but it's not like respecting people as intelligent beings and trying to approach them rationally with reasons. Like, I never hear reasons or examples.
And he's very dangerous, but he's a small-minded and not, frankly, very smart person. So no, I hope, I don't know what to hope. I just hope this is over soon.
Thousands also took to the streets across Canada to protest Trump's repeated threats of making Canada the 51st U.S. state. Demonstrators condemned Trump's remarks as a threat to Canadian sovereignty.
Why do they always look like this? Do you see what I mean? Where are the young people? These protests, they've lost the youth. They are losing, the left is losing the youth. They've lost the plot and they don't know what's happening. Let me show you this real quick. If you're on the left and you doubt this, I don't even know if you've seen the stats in your bubble. Maybe you haven't. Do you know that young people are increasingly turning towards the right and embracing conservatism, and some people embracing actually bad things? Like, one part of the dangers in you guys on the left pretending like Trump is a Nazi or pretending like conservatives are Nazis. One of the dangers is that you are actively pushing a small percentage, but still a percentage of young men towards those things, because you're just conflating all of it. And they're starting to think those words have no meaning. And you're going to call them that either way, even if they're just a normal, they're just a conservative. That's all. They're a normal person, but you're going to call them those things. So it's sort of like you're pushing people into the thing you think you're fighting. Do you understand that? But that aside, the extremist part aside, which is a very small percentage, young people are actively embracing conservatism, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm glad to see it. I don't know if you're probably not glad to see it, but at the very least on the left, do you wonder why this is happening? Look at these articles. There's several that I pulled up. Young people increasingly embrace conservatism. This is talking about an Abacus poll. And this is even in Canada. They did this poll in Canada about 36% of Canadians between the ages of 18 and 29 years old would support the Conservatives, versus only 27% of them for the NDP and a paltry 19% for the Liberals. So the youngest voting age generation there in Canada, conservative. They're more conservative than they are leftist. That's in Canada. Look at this one. America's youngest voters turn right. Both of these are from the fall of 2024. Both of these articles. This is a different poll. This is about American men and women. And you can see here with these graphs, they visually explain it for you with visuals, with a graph. So here on the top, you've got the youngest voting age, 18 to 24 years old. The gold bar there, that's moderates. These are men, by the way, who consider themselves moderate. That's the majority, 48%. Second largest is conservative. That's in the red, 26% of those young men, youngest voting age, 18 to 24. So, you're talking about over 75%, over 2/3 of young men ages 18 to 24 in America, over 2/3 say that they're moderate or conservative. They lean moderate or conservative. Only 22% say they lean liberal. Why is that happening? And by the way, the 25 to 29-year-olds are not far behind. 48% of them also say they're moderate. 21% say they're conservative. They're not far behind. And this is a trend for men and women. It's just more obvious with the men. But even among the women age 18 to 24, more of them identify as conservative than they do as liberal. Even among the women 18 to 24 in the US. This is a Gallup poll. You guys are on the left, you're losing the youth. Why do you think that is? Maybe you should talk to some of them and figure out why they're leaving the left. Maybe you should talk to some of us who are not in the youth anymore, but who have also left the left. Some of us who might have a different perspective than you on what's happening. So I'm going to go back to this protest video, Amy Goodman, returning now to the protesters. These are the guys that are going to save America. Look at these. You know, again, older people, out of touch, somewhat disheveled looking, overweight. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, okay. It's just sad.
This is a Vancouver protester.
Today, I'm out here to send a simple, clear message to the United States that we're not going to want to be a part of you. We're never going to want to be a part of you. This is very close to becoming a reality down there.
Okay, did you see what she did? First of all, this protester is wearing the Handmaid's outfit, which is why I ordered one of these Handmaid's outfits, because I think it's so funny. There's so many opportunities to wear it. If I had been here in Texas when these protests happened this weekend, and if I had known about them, I would have so been there in my Handmaid's costume, like interviewing people, because they see. Anyway, this is over the top. Most of these women who wear these Handmaid's costumes have never read Margaret Atwood. They've never read her. Margaret Atwood is my favorite author. I've read almost all of her books. They've never read her, but they're out there dressed in a costume from a book they've never read. And then they have the gall and the arrogance, and quite frankly, the ignorance to do what she just did and gesture at her Handmaid's costume and say, "This is close to becoming a reality in America." What are you talking about? How are we supposed to take you seriously when you say stuff like that? Do you realize, leftists, I'm not trying to pick on you or dunk on you. I'm laughing because it's genuine. Like, from our perspective, this is so do you not see how absurd it is? It's like a flat earther. I mean, and this is not fringe. There's a lot of the leftists who believe and say this ridiculous stuff. America's not far from this. America's not far from women being taken forcibly from their homes by the government and given to rich white families to become breed mares. Like, what? Oh, God. And we're supposed to, Amy Goodman is interviewing her like she's worth being a part of the conversation or these kind of people should not be, they're not serious people. This is part of why, again, this is all related. This is part of why a lot of us liberals have left the left, because it's full of insane people like this. You know what? On the left, we didn't do any gatekeeping. We should have done gatekeeping. The left should have done gatekeeping. They let the craziest people and the craziest ideology completely rot the left. They let the craziest people, they elected them to office. They, bought all their insane books about woke ideology. Like, they propped these, they made the lunatics are running the asylum on the left. And so this is not fringe. This is the left dressing up in Handmaid's costumes, a character from a book she's never read, talking about, like, we're very close to, in America, the government forcibly removing women from their home and making them become brood mares for other families. What, that's insane. Let's continue.
Right now, we have our very own election, which is extremely scary with what we're seeing as being the unsaid messages from one side. And I'm here as a visual reminder to let people know that we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to sit quietly.
In the United States, there are over 1,200 protests like this one in Los Angeles.
Well, I've marched before when he first got elected a number of years ago, and I still can't believe that he got elected again. And I can't believe that he's tanking the economy and he's tanking the government, and it's all being done for him and for Elon Musk and all.
What, again, a lot of, to us, this is just incoherent rambling. What is he doing again that you find objectionable? He's taking the economy. Taking the economy? What does that mean? Does that mean you disagree with some of his economic policies or you don't? Which ones do you disagree with? What do you mean? Taking the economy. He's taking the government. What does that mean? They're identifying fraud. They're cutting largesse, which our federal government is, the size of our government is out of control. Our tax dollars were going to the most ridiculous things. Doge has been finding, do you want to be paying for gender reassignment surgeries on mice? You know what I'm talking about? Like, have you looked through all of the stuff that Doge found that our money was going towards? Why? What are you even out there supporting, dude? I don't get it.
All the billionaires and everybody else. It's not for me. It's not for the people who live in my neighborhood. It's for all of these billionaires. And I'm glad to see so many people came out today. I mean, we need it. I want more people.
How is saving the American taxpayer money, like you and me, saving us money, cutting out largesse, preventing government overreach into our pocketbooks by cutting out unnecessary largesse? How is that for the billionaires? Again, I don't understand. Do you guys on the left understand? We are very happy with what he's doing in terms of cutting the size of the federal government. We're very happy. Frankly, I want him to do more. It's not enough for me yet. Keep going.
People to show up and get him out of office. It's
there
terrible.
were over 20 protests across the state of Colorado, like this one in Denver in the freezing cold, including former and current workers.
My name is Marina Connors, and this one says, hands off public lands. I'm a retired National Park Service employee, and it's kind of, it's really hard to run the parks, and to do it under these circumstances is even more and more difficult.
I am a federal employee today, and hope that I can stay hope that I can stay employed so that I can continue to serve.
Well, firstly, her sign, she's hiding her face. She says it's because she doesn't want to be fired. She's a federal employee with a sign that says, I want DEI in schools. Well, honey, you should be fired. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but you should be fired, because DEI it's legalized discrimination, racist discrimination. It's an attempt to make something that's illegal legal. It's an attempt to get away with it. It's an attempt to permit racism and sexism against the groups that you think should be discriminated against. Men, boys, white people, and Asians. Like, that's what it is. It's unethical. It's not liberal. It's woke. It's collectivist. You are not that different from the white supremacists, honey. So I don't think you should be paid by taxpayers. You're a federal employee. You're taking money out of our pocket, and you're out here trying to push discrimination into our schools, teaching kids to discriminate on the basis of race and sex. I don't think our public money should go to that. If you want to teach your kids that privately, okay, I think it's terrible, but you have the right to do it. But I don't think our public money should be paying for it. So, you should be fired.
the American people who I swore to serve when I took my oath of office.
That federal worker covered her face, but her sign said, with her sign, it said, "I want DEI in schools, not measles." Protesters estimated to be.
Okay, hold on. I just want to read a couple things from the chat. Kendra Souder says, I want reading comprehension in schools and math skills. Imagine that. Imagine that. That's what I mean, America's high schools, public high schools are failing. Kids are graduating. They're being passed up. Meaning, I mean, they're being given passing grades when they haven't earned them, and they're being, moved on to the next grade, and they're graduating without being able to read or do basic math. But you can bet they've learned all about internalized racism and systemic homophobia and like all of this woke cult religion crap. I just want to thank a couple people. Pirate Tomsky, give it up for our British mod. The Brit is here with us today, Mr. Pirate Tomsky. It's good to see you. I've missed you guys. I missed you. For £5, he says, hey, yo, boomer pensions must always grow. The global liberal order is dying, and the previous generation can't accept that they've ruined the West. Yeah. I want to show you guys something since you mentioned this, Pirate Tomsky. Look at this. I thought this was just a funny. Look at this cartoon. Now I'll describe it for those of you who are just listening. It's a leftist with a man bun. He looks upwardly mobile, probably went to an elite school or university. So it's a leftist with a man bun, and he's got a sign that says "Down with the system," and he's yelling, "The system is exploitative and unsustainable." And unsustainable. And then there's a picture. The next frame is him looking at the stocks trending down. A lot of these protesters had this. You're going to see it in this video. They have this stock market sign with the arrow going down. Stocks. I guess they're upset about that. And this leftist is going, no, not the system. I just thought it was great. Down with the system. Wait a minute. Not my stocks. No. Anyway, pretty funny. John Thomas for $10. Thank you, John. Says, Keri, did you see Tommy Lauren on Piers Morgan talking about Andrew Tate? Some alpha male was there defending Tate. Tate is no role model. Nick Freitas and John Lovell are good, godly men to aspire to emulate. First of all, I did see that clip. I think I know the one you're talking about. And second of all, I don't know. I've heard of the two guys you're mentioning. I'm not that familiar with them, but I'm going to check them out because lately I've been trying to find, instead of just criticizing the so-called woke right, like I want to highlight voices that aren't getting as much attention and people that I've started following and discovered who are out there living by their fruits. You can see they are living a moral, conservative, or classically liberal in some cases, but a conservative Christian life. Like they are living witnesses of it. And I want to interview especially positive masculine role models who are in some cases presenting their views on why they believe biblical patriarchy is good and how do they define that? What do they mean by that? So that people can better see that it's different than what the so-called woke right is selling. It's not what they're selling. And I think the crazy French woke right, it's like, I think part of what they're doing, whether it's purposeful or not, is they're trying to pollute and pervert and sully what these things mean. They're trying to be the example that the left points to, the only example that people know when they think of things like a traditional marriage or a Christian marriage or things like that. And I want to highlight the voices who are not a part of that. And so that's what I've been trying to do is interview. I have another interview I'm doing next week. If you haven't seen it, I've done interviews with Will Spencer, Cody Lawrence, and Mick Olson. I've got some more coming out, so go and check those out. But thank you, John Thomas. And then legalize adulthood for $50. Whoa, thank you for the generous super chat. Says federal government bureaucrats are crying while they clean out their desks. It's exactly what I voted for. Yes. And by the way, leftists, a lot of you, I don't think again, because when you're in that bubble, you don't hear certain things, but you probably don't understand why there's a lot of working class people who, when they were losing their jobs in a bad economy, they were told by leftist, elitist journalists and government people in the government and stuff, they were told sarcastically and a bit cruelly, well, why don't you learn coding? Why don't you learn something useful? And so a lot of people, understandably so, who are working class, tend to have that attitude right now about elite federal government employees who are living off of our money. And they're kind of the opinion. There's a lot of this sentiment going around of like, oh, boo-hoo, federal workers. Maybe you should learn coding. Maybe you should learn something so that you can make a living without reaching into the pocket of the American working class. That's kind of the attitude I've been seeing. You probably don't see it if you're in the leftist bubble. John Thomas, again, thank you, John Thomas, for the super chat. John Thomas for $10 says the left and the IVF industrial complex are the ones trying to create a Handmaid's Tale, a masochistic fantasy. Asian women were lured to Georgia, the country of Georgia, and forced to be surrogates. I didn't even know that. I'll have to look into that about the country of Georgia. But I do agree with your first sentence. I know about that. Yes, the left kind of fetishized the Handmaid's Tale. It's weird. And then I just wanted to point this out. MAGA woman says, hey, Dion and Keri, I'm a rare breed. I'm a Black Christian woman, millennial, Haitian ancestry, conservative, and never voted blue in any election. And I memorized the Constitution preamble and I know most amendments. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, you are the kind of person that leftists don't know. They don't. They think they're friends. A lot of times I found leftists here in Georgetown, other places, they think their friend group is so diverse based just on color, or they'll be all excited. They're like, oh, I have a Black friend or whatever, gay friend. But everyone in their friend group all speaks the same cult ideology. And it's fascinating to me because if I start talking to them and I'm talking about people who have different opinions, different perspectives, and they don't know any Black conservatives, none. Oftentimes, I'm talking about people in the public eye or in real life. They don't know any in real life. They don't know any Black conservatives. And I'm telling you, leftists, it's not because they don't exist. It's because you're in a bubble. If you don't know any conservative gay people or trans people or Black people or women or like, you're in a cult. Get out and meet some people. And then Jennifer, did you see Buck Angel's interview with Miss Lister's sister? No, I did not. I'm not sure who that is, but I will look it up. Okay. What is woke right, says Liberty. Oh man, I've got a couple videos on that. And rather than derail this episode, go and check them out. But I might come back to that later in the episode. I just don't want to derail again. Okay, let's get back to this. Amy Goodman. Here we go, covering the hands-off protests that nobody cared about. That
In the tens of thousands gathered in Washington, D.C. in mass opposition to Trump's policies. A sea of banners and placards filled the Washington Mall, including signs that read, "Resist like it's 1938 Nazi Germany and fascism alive and well and living in the White House." Speakers included Congressmembers Ilhan Omar and Jamie Raskin.
Wait a minute. Let me just back it up a second. Did you see this guy here? Did you recognize him? He's got a shirt on that says "Censored, not silenced." Isn't this the guy who was escorted out of Trump's speech because he kept heckling and yelling over him so that he couldn't talk? Isn't this wild? These leftists, they said nothing. This is why a lot of liberals left the left. They said nothing during the years of mass censorship, actual censorship that was happening of doctors, scientists, journalists during the COVID years. You guys shut your eyes. You ignored it. You didn't say anything while actual censorship happened, and it was disgusting to a lot of us. A lot of liberals left during those years. I had already left, but a lot of the people I know who left the left, I met during those years. Those were their breaking points. That was their breaking point. The mass censorship during the COVID years. You guys said nothing. And yet, you want to pretend like a person who's being escorted out for heckling is being censored? That's very different. When you're disrupting a speech, that's very different. You should be escorted out. I was a speaker at a Women Leaving the Left event, and there were people there. First of all, people paid money, bought tickets to be able to come and hear us speak, but the leftists were banging on the windows as loud as they could and shaking noisemakers and stuff and trying to prevent. This happens all over the US, where leftists try and prevent people from hearing speech. He was trying to censor Trump. Think about it. He was speaking over him. He was trying to make sure he could disrupt the speech and nobody would get to hear Trump. He thought his rights superseded the rights of everyone else. The right of Trump to speak, the right of everyone else in the room to hear Trump speak, the right of all the American citizen to hear Trump speak. He wanted to shut that down. He should have been taken out, escorted out, and I'm glad he was. But isn't it wild that they will say nothing when actual censorship happens? Censorship of different points of view, censorship of scientific studies, censorship of doctors and scientists and geniuses who had a different perspective on what should be done during the COVID years to minimize the number of deaths, to protect the health of the American people. They said nothing while that censorship happened for years. So color me disgusted when I see this.
Resists like it's 1938 Nazi Germany and fascism alive and well and living in the White House. Speakers included Congressmembers Ilhan Omar and Jamie Raskin.
They say, though, well, the number of courts striking down Trump's policies is completely unprecedented. Well, so what? That's only because the number of his illegal actions are completely unprecedented. The judges are doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs. Let's tell MAGA what democratic movements all over the world tell the dictators of the world. Hands off the courts.
Wait a minute. I just want to try and follow this reasoning. So you like what the activist judges are doing, so therefore they're just doing their job. But you don't like what Trump is doing, so therefore he's not just doing his job. Am I understanding this correctly? Is doing your job contingent upon whether you agree with the person or not? Is that it? Okay. Is it that childish to say they're just doing their job if I agree with what they do? I guess so. And by the way, what is it he wants to tell the MAGA? What is that? Is that all of us who voted for Trump, the majority of people? You want to tell us what? Hands off what? Is he saying hands off democracy? Let me hear it.
What democratic movements all over the world tell the dictators of the world. Hands off the courts. Hands off the courts.
Meanwhile, another protest Saturday in D.C. demanded an arms embargo against Israel and an end to the Gaza genocide and the release of Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Öztürk, and other foreign university students and faculty who remain in ICE detention, targeted for their involvement in Palestinian rights protests. This is Mohammed Habeh from the American Muslims for Palestine.
I'm here today because for the past year and a half, we have seen the utter destruction going on in Gaza, funded by American taxpayer dollars. We've seen it in the previous administration, and we see now that Donald Trump is continuing and making it worse for the people in Gaza. After a month of fasting in the month of Ramadan, we saw that the people in Gaza were suffering a famine, as well as seeing Israel break the ceasefire and begin massacring Palestinians throughout the month and on the day of Eid I'm here today because I want the people of Gaza to see that the American people will not accept this, that the American people will stand up against our government as they continue to support this genocide.
My name is Eugene Perrier. I'm with the Answer Coalition, and we're demanding the immediate end of the genocide in Gaza. The U.S. should stop all of its forms of complicity and...
Okay, this is the youngest person I've seen yet. Mostly it's old people at these protests. But to be fair, I think he's black, and black don't crack. So this guy could be 70 and just look 30. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have no idea, but he looks pretty young.
Facilitation of that genocide, and do everything in its power to bring it to an end immediately. And we're also demanding the release of the students who have been taken off the streets, abducted, and jailed simply for standing with the Palestinian people, and for all those who have been repressed because of the steps they've taken to stand up for the right of self-determination and liberation of Palestine, to have all charges, all lawsuits, or anything like that dropped, and allow people to speak up and speak out against this genocide.
And here in New York City, up to 100,000 people took to the streets in Manhattan, marching from Bryant Park to Madison Square Park. Democracy Now! Was there. There were many issues discussed, among them Ramesa Ozturk, that tough student who was sent to Louisiana after being driven to Vermont, picked off the streets of Somerville, Massachusetts.
Did you see that? Look at this. Look at this sign. It says, "Can't fix that with a Sharpie." And it's got the stock market. It's like the meme we just saw. This leftist cares very much about the system. This leftist cares very much about their stock. I mean, fight the system, fight the capitalist patriarchy. And they're like, oh no, my stock. Come on, guys. Come on, old school hippies. I see you. I see you.
Was sent to Louisiana after being driven to Vermont, picked off the streets of Somerville, Massachusetts by masked agents. A judge has ruled her case has to be sent back to...
Let me just pause on this other sign too. Okay, look at this. Resist fascism. Here, this is part of what I put in the description. The reason why, first of all, MAGA woman says black don't crack and Asian don't raisin. I never heard that second part. That's true though. Okay. Resist fascism. Let me put this on the screen. How can I phrase this? The reason why I care so much about helping people like myself leave the leftist cult, okay, is, well, because I care about people and I like people. And I don't like seeing good people, good-hearted people misled and manipulated by a toxic ideology, a psychopathic ideology, which is what woke is. And also because I want, you know, much like people on the left think that's what this is, they think they're fighting for a better future, whatever. I also am fighting for a better future. And because I care about people and I care about our country. And so I want to help people leave the left. And I'm blessed and grateful about all the people in our community who've left the left, the people in my chat who've left the left, all the friends I've made who left the left. You know, there's a lot of people waking up. And that's like the greatest thing that can happen is when I see a comment, and I've seen several, I'm grateful because I see comments that say like, you helped me when I was leaving woke, or you helped me understand this better when I was leaving. And that's the whole reason I do this show. So I want people to leave the left because it's good for them, because the left is an evil, dark, what it's become, it's evil and dark. And because the left has become the baddies. Okay. The left has become the evil that they think they're fighting. It's not good for people individually, and it's not good for society. If you're in a cult belief system that has gotten you to the point to where you are for some reason defending mutilating kids and sterilizing kids, cutting their breasts off, cutting their penis off, like if you're in a place where you're defending that or giving porn to kids in school, like they've really messed with you. They are using you as an instrument of evil. They are using you as an instrument of evil. And what's crazy is they're using your big heart to manipulate you and to do it. And I care about that. And I genuinely want you to leave. And so that's why I talk about all this stuff. Okay? But the other thing is that you guys are not going to be any help at fighting actual fascism or sexism or racism or any of that stuff that you think you're fighting. You're not going to be any help. If that stuff ever became influential, you're not going to be helpful until you get out of the woke left. Do you know why? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, because you don't even realize that the woke leftist movement that you're in is already fascist. This person here has a sign saying resist fascism while they're out there supporting fascism. It was fascist. And I can already hear you saying, what's an example? I'll give you an example. During the COVID years, as I mentioned, the Biden administration, the government, 3-letter agencies, they were meeting weekly with the biggest social media companies who control the public square and the opinions that were allowed to speak and express, the Overton window, if you will. The Biden administration, the government, they were meeting weekly with these big social media companies. Mark Zuckerberg has admitted to this in his testimony before the House. They were meeting with them and telling them who to censor, which doctors and scientists to censor, which thinkers, which journalists to censor, which professors to censor. And that is fascism. That is the government working hand in hand with big corporations to censor the people. That's fascist. There are other examples that I'm just going to give you one so I don't derail. But you guys don't even realize that the left has become fascist. You're in a movement that is, it's got elements of communism and of fascism. It's authoritarian. It's about government control instead of individual liberty. It's about more government control. You're out there protesting. Look at these protests. You're out there protesting for a bigger government, for more government theft, to steal from the American people, to steal from the citizens and give to all this crazy largesse. You're out there advocating on behalf of that. You don't even realize what the left has become. And you guys in the woke movement, they've manipulated you into supporting racism and sexism. And how did they do it? They cleverly redefined racism and sexism. That's really all it took, like any cult. They told you it's impossible to be racist towards white people. They told me that too when I was in it. They told you it's impossible to be sexist towards men. Can you imagine? They got you to support discrimination on the basis of race and sex in a movement that you thought was against those things. They got you to support it. So you're in a racist and sexist movement. You're in a movement that has elements of fascism and elements of communism. You're in that movement. It's authoritarian. You're in that movement. It's censorious. You're in that movement. And so when that emerges, if it emerges in a different way, which I think it is, this is to go back to the woke right thing, there is this new breath that is being breathed into some very old, ridiculous, fringe, white supremacist, ethno-nationalist kind of crap among people who self-identify as being on the right. I might disagree that that's where they are, but they self-identify as being on the right. There is some of that starting to happen. They are becoming very vocal online. They don't hold any power yet. Not like the woke left. They don't hold any power yet. And the fact that you woke leftists, you call Trump a Nazi, you call, like this person with the sign, this idiot with the sign, resist fascism. I assume that means all Trump people, anybody who voted for Trump and all conservatives and, like all these millions and millions and millions of people. And you guys are not going to be helpful at either identifying or fighting actual fascism. You will never be helpful because you can't identify it. First of all, you don't even realize you're in a movement that has elements of it. And you can't distinguish between just a patriotic conservative and a Nazi. Like you can't tell the difference. So you're not helpful. And because you cry wolf all the time and you've been doing it for a decade or more now, and calling everybody who doesn't agree with woke a Nazi. You've been falsely doing that, and you've misused and abused language, and you've misused the words. You call everybody a racist, and you call everybody nobody listens to you anymore. That's why you're not going to be of any help. It's almost like you're in La La Land. And those of you with good intentions who can hear me, I'm telling you, I am still praying that you wake up and leave the woke left so you can join the real fight. Okay? Like, if you think, I'm speaking to woke leftists now, so I know a lot of my regular listeners are going to be like, you're being too charitable or whatever. I'm not. I know some people who are in the woke left, and some of them have big hearts. And they think that they are against fascism. They really think they are. Well, I'm telling you, wake up then. You're not going to be of any help. If this ever became a big thing, you know, you're not going to be of any help. Okay. Let's continue with this. That sign, that's just like, you're so out of touch. We'll continue.
Agents, a judge has ruled her case has to be sent back to Vermont. These were some of the voices.
My name is Sarah. I'm not with the group. I went to Tufts University, and that is where Rumeysa Ozturk was disappeared from. And she is owed due process and a chance to continue her education. And she was here legally, and it should never be considered.
We do have a young person. Let's acknowledge a younger person.
Considered illegal to write an op-ed. Whether you agree or disagree with what she said, it's her right. And I just want her to be free. And I want that for all the people who have been disappeared by the Trump administration.
Is the Tufts community active on Rumeysa's case?
Yes. So I know
Oh, this is a perfect example. Let me just put this up. Kendra says, here's another example of fascism for you on the left. When you don't get to pick your party candidate, you're in a fascist group. Maybe the easiest example, can you not admit that? You guys didn't even get to have, the Democrats didn't even allow you to have an election for your party candidate. They just appointed one for you. They appointed Kamala for you. That's insane. And you don't care? It doesn't matter? Okay.
President sent out an email the other day. The university is standing with Rumeysa and her lawyers, and also many of my fellow alum have stood up, signed letters, and taken action to free Rumeysa and get justice for her.
Christine Harrington.
That music was one of the better parts of the protests, I have to say. I like the music.
And I'm with lots of friends, and I'm a professor at NYU. And what do you teach? I teach law and politics. So I watched you.
My husband has a great point. Anthony Garcia Music says, she said that Trump disappeared this woman instead of saying they deported. This is language she's been told to use. Yes, they use specific words. When I was in the woke left, we use specific words to shape the way that people think. You know, we pushed, instead of saying illegal immigrant, they push hard to get you to say undocumented citizen or undocumented American. They want you to say that so that you start thinking of them as well, they're basically citizens. They're just undocumented. No. They're illegal immigrants.
What do you think is happening?
This old lady here is a professor at NYU. I wonder, and white, liberal, elitist, boomer. What do you think her politics are?
What do you think is happening to the universities?
There are, some of them are caving, and the first ones are caving. Not so good. Not so good at all. But that's why we're out here.
What do you think the universities should do?
Fight back. Make it clear this is unacceptable. It has never happened, and it will not happen.
What is she talking about? Again, what are the specifics? Amy Goodman You're a reporter, Amy Goodman. Can't you ask her what's unacceptable, what's never happened? Fight back against what? Can you get into any specifics, please?
I mean, to mobilize together. But the caving we saw starting with Colombia and the spread has just made some universities figure duck and cover, you know. We'll get through this. That's not what universities should be about.
Let's look at another one of their signs that makes no sense. Did you see that?
You know, we'll get through this. That's not what.
Here we go. Look at this guy. He's got a sign that says evidence-based outrage. Well, that's not true. It's actually patently false. It's actually the exact opposite. This is another reason why we think you guys are ridiculous. You don't care about evidence-based studies. You don't, because you guys were fine with them censoring scientific studies, scientists, doctors, prize winners. The scientists who developed the mRNA vaccine was censored. Robert Malone, you were fine with all of it. Dr. J, I can never say his name, Bhattacharya, you were fine with them censoring Yale professors, scientists, all. You didn't care. Stanford, world renowned, you didn't care. You didn't want us to be able to see the evidence-based science. You didn't want us to even be able to ask questions about it. You're not evidence-based. You called us murderers because we were like, hey, we're not taking a new vaccine. It's not evidence-based. It actually, even today, it still hasn't been around long enough for longitudinal studies. Sorry to bring that up. I was actually a science major at Duke University, and a lot of you guys want to pretend like you know more about science than those of us with real objections about the lack of evidence-based studies. It was insane. We had to be lectured by morons on Facebook who pretended to know more about science than we do. Who got a vaccine in a donut, you know, in a promotion. We lived through all of that, and we did it, a lot of us, very politely. Well, people less intelligent than we are condescended to us. Evidence-based? What are you talking about? It's not just the COVID issue that you guys didn't want to hear or see any evidence at all. It's not just the COVID issue. It's also the trans kids issue. You don't want to see or hear any evidence. You don't seek it out. You don't know anything, a lot of you. Why don't you? If you support something, why don't you investigate it first? Every systematic medical review that's been conducted on so-called gender-affirming care, this is another one of these Orwellian terms that you guys on the left have developed to obscure what's really happening. Gender-affirming care, what does that mean? It means double mastectomies for children. It means cutting off the penis. It means puberty blockers, which are not even approved by the FDA for this purpose, but being given to kids to permanently delay puberty so they don't go through puberty. And in 100% of cases, you've got the president of WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. You've got her on record, on camera, saying in 100% of cases where they give puberty blockers to little boys, they're never able to sexually function. They're never able to experience orgasm or to perform sexually. They are chemically castrating little boys, and they know it and they acknowledge it. And yet you just want to continue. Let's just keep pushing kids into this experimental medicine, like Frankenstein medicine. They are peeling the skin off of girls' arms so that they have a permanent mangled arm. And then they're taking that skin and turning it into fake penises and then rerouting the urethra through it. And then there's lots of complications. And a lot of these girls are coming back and having multiple surgeries done for life. And they are disfiguring these kids. And these are children who don't understand what they're consenting to. And society is lying to them and telling them it's possible to change their sex. All of this is happening, and none of this is evidence-based. In fact, the evidence in every progressive country that's done a systematic medical review, the evidence says this is wrong. This is experimental. And ethically, the kids don't understand what they're so-called consenting to. We're going to ban this. Sweden, Denmark, Finland, the UK, Norway. So you guys are not evidence-based. This is why liberals have left the left. because you're not the party of science. You're actively anti-science. Actively anti-science. Actively evidence-based. You're emotional. You're emotion-based, like a cult. Yes, it's evil. It's evil. But I find this fascinating that in this anti-science cult on the left, this is why I watch a lot of documentaries about cults and stuff. I find all of it very fascinating. The mind, the psychology, mass psychosis. Like, how do you convince people of the exact opposite of what they're doing, right? How do you convince people that they're evidence-based when they're the exact opposite? It's mind-blowing.
The university should be about.
My name is Janine Georgette. I can't believe I'm still have to protest this because I can't believe it. I mean, I've been out protesting since I was about 5. It's the first time I remember holding a sign. That we are so under attack. Our country is being torn down.
So this is basically, she's pretty symbolic again of the age cohort of the protesters. Not the race cohort, because most of them are white, and this happens to be an older black woman instead of an older white woman. But she's about to mention the Vietnam War. And again, these people are stuck in a previous time. They don't even understand where we I think they don't understand where we are. They don't know what's going on. They don't know that they're who the baddies are anymore. Just listen to her talk about Vietnam.
I don't really know why. I don't get what they get from tearing our country apart, but they're pulling it down. And so I'm out here to try to keep it upright.
What does the other side say?
Payback is a bitch, and she votes.
Do you think a protest like this of tens of thousands of people can make a difference?
I saw it make a difference in the Vietnam War. When so many people get together like this, politicians notice. And so, yes, the protests around the Vietnam War stopped it. There's no doubt in my mind. And so this kind of activism, they notice. They take note.
We didn't notice. I didn't even know this was happening. I'm just saying, you guys are so out of the loop that the only reason I'm doing this show today is for my friends who are in the left, because those of us who are not, who left it, we're not concerned about this. You guys aren't going to have an effect. This doesn't have an effect on anything. It's not convincing. I'm concerned for you. Look at this sign. They've got a picture of Trump tearing up a Social Security card. They've convinced a bunch of boomers that Trump is coming for their Social Security. That's not true. There's all these hysterical things, they've caused you to have this hysteria about things that aren't true. Do you want to see something that's really happening about Social Security? This is interesting. Let's look at this instead. So this is Elon Musk and someone explaining from Doge, some of the stuff they've been finding about the Biden administration giving Social Security numbers to millions of illegal immigrants. Here we go. So when stuff like this is what's being found out and reported on, but then the mainstream media, the corporate media, what they're telling you leftists? They're like, oh, he's coming for your Social Security. No, he's not. Please go and watch the source material. Again, I'm asking you, get out of your bubble. See what's really happening. So this is a video where they're talking about 5.5 million illegals who got Social Security numbers under Joe Biden. 1.3 million of these illegals are also on Medicaid. This is do you understand? This is the American taxpayer. This is theft. This is the federal government reaching into our pocketbooks and stealing from us and giving it to people who are not even citizens. Medicaid and Social Security for illegal immigrants? No. On what planet did this become normal? We're going to watch this.
And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here. where how many Social Security numbers were issued. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of it?
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff they're working on. You've heard some of that already, but this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America.
He's right on, leftists. Like, this should not be political. But you know how they manipulate the masses? They keep us all from uniting on something like this, as they tell you it's a right-left thing. That's all they have to do is pull the little puppet string. Because your identity is so tied up with opposing the right, you know? So if they can tell you this is a left-right thing and the right people on the right believe this and people on the left believe this, and you just go right along with it. These are people, elderly American citizens, who have paid into Social Security their whole life, and it's at risk because why? Because people who don't pay into it, illegal immigrants who are not citizens, are pillaging it. Our federal government, he's talking about the Biden administration. It went from 200,000 to over 5 million illegal immigrants under the Biden administration who were given Social Security numbers.
And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from DC to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release from your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which is to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people. Okay, so what happens then? Once you're in the country and you've got asylum through one of these pathways, and we've mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number.
What?
No interview. No ID.
What?
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. No. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through on every benefit.
1.3 million illegal aliens on Medicaid. Plundering. you know, those of you on the left want to pretend like, again, that you care about, and I'm not saying you consciously are faking or pretending. I'm just saying you believe, some of you truly believe that you care for the underprivileged and you care for the least among us in our society. We are not taking care of the least among us. And why? Like, you are being convinced by sociopaths, a sociopathic ideology, woke leftist ideology. It's not liberalism. You're being convinced by that sociopathic ideology that you're a bad person if you think this is wrong. You're not a bad person for thinking this is wrong. This is wrong. Why do we have, like, people who do not pay into the system because they're not citizens plundering Social Security and Medicaid and taking out money that would otherwise go to the American citizens who paid into it? How did you get twisted up so much that they've got you defending this and hating Elon Musk for some reason for exposing it? I don't care who's exposing it. You should ask yourself, would it matter to you if Elon Musk was exposing this under a Biden administration? If Biden had, put him in an office of Doge or something, would it matter? Does it matter to you the R or the D on there about who's exposing it? That's weird. It shouldn't matter. Elon Musk it's not like he's some right-wing Republican. Like, he's a liberal who voted Trump. It's so weird how fast the programming works to where you guys have like deep emotional hatred, visceral hatred towards him now. It's so weird. You can't see that objectively, stand outside of yourself and see, like, how do they get you so emotionally wound up like that to where you're kind of okay with people committing acts of terrorism and burning Teslas and making planting bombs and stuff. Like, how did they get you to do that? How'd you get there?
Benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. Right. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote.
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation
Yes.
Service.
Yeah.
Already.
They should be prosecuted.
Already. That is already happening. Right now. Yeah. And the truly disturbing thing, though, I just want you to know this, a truly disturbing thing to me, and the darkest thing about this to me, the voter fraud is terrible, but the human tragedy this created is extraordinary, because what you don't understand, and people don't know, and Americans need to know, that's why I'm here, is that human traffickers made $13 to $15 billion off of this. Okay? Yeah. That's the money that's going around the world, moving people around the world to our borders because of these incentives. How does it work? What happens? Hey, if you're in Africa and you're in Central America, you got to walk up through Mexico, through Central America. Who do you pay? You pay the narcos, you pay the traffickers, right? And we were told by ICE, it's between $20,000 and $500, depends where they pick you up, to walk across all those countries and get all the way up to the border. Where's that money goes? It goes to the cartels. It goes to human traffickers, right? There are 30,000 children that have not appeared on the notice to appear already. ICE knows this. 30,000 children, 270,000 children didn't even get notices to appear. ICE told us that kids are being trafficked back and forth across the border to complete families to make this easier. This is a human tragedy. It's not just the money, it's the people and the kids. And how many of these people died on the way up here that didn't make it in? What happened to them? We created a system here that created a incentive for people to come, taking advantage of by these traffickers. And how do you think they get paid? What, you're in Africa, Central America, you got $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 to pay these traffickers? No, you don't. What happens? You come in, then you owe them the money. You're an indentured servant. If you don't pay them, what happens? What do? They kill your mother, they kill your brother, they kill your family. What happens next? That's what we discovered. And I have to tell you, it's tragic to me. The tragedy, the human tragedy this created is extraordinary. That's the real problem. This is America. We don't do this here in America.
Yeah.
We don't do this here in America.
It's just incredible. If you're on the left and you're joining us today, I'm glad you're here. I hope you watched that video. I hope maybe you're curious, maybe you're seeing things today that you haven't seen before. You're welcome back here. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You can be here, hate watching me if you want. I'm just happy you're here. No matter what's going through your mind, I'm happy you're here because I know how isolating it was in that corporate leftist bubble. And I think it's good for you. I think it's good for humans to get out of that. And so I'm happy that you're here. I wonder if I should finish this Amy Goodman. It's more of the same, the Amy Goodman video. Yeah, I think I can just move on to some of the other stuff that I have queued up. So we looked at the stats about how young people are increasingly becoming more conservative. The left is losing not just the plot, but the youth. I did want to show you a couple of the protesters. Again, why do they always look like this? Here. Let's see. Here's one. Okay. This is a trans woman, so a man. Let's be clear. Okay, I'm going to turn the volume all the way up. So this is a typical protester from the day of hands off. Let's hear.
Hey friends, I just passed the Dunkin' Donuts, which is the most vague possible location I could possibly give you in Massachusetts. But besides being near a Dunkin' Donuts, which places me somewhere in Massachusetts, I mentioned I'm at the Hands Off Boston March, and it is the slowest march I have ever been in, and I could not be more happy about that, because that means that the streets between the park and City Hall are entirely filled with people who are here because they're very angry about what's going on, about Trump and fascism trying to take this wonderful country with all these wonderful people, and there are great chants.
What is Trump? Again, it's the same old nonsense, like vague thing, like what Trump and fascism trying to take, what does that even mean? Again, you people are no help for fighting actual fascism. Number one, because you're in a movement that has elements of fascism, and number two, because you can't see what fascism is. You can't actually you can't define it or take notice of it. Like, you can't identify it. Let's put it that way. You can't identify it.
Going on. Immigrants welcome here. Trans people are welcome here. Trans kids are welcome here. This is fucking Massachusetts, kid. Get your fucking hands off of it. All right. I'll say hi some more later if I can manage to post this. Bye.
Okay. Trans kids. There's no such thing as a trans kid. There are kids who are gender nonconforming. There are a lot of autistic kids and, like I said, gender nonconforming kids and sexually abused kids, honestly, and kids with mental health issues who are all being called trans. I don't agree with that because no matter what happens to them, no matter what they decide when they're adults, when they are children, they deserve to live life without you putting these labels on them and locking them into a path that necessitates mutilation and sterilization, possibly sterilization. Like, they deserve to live freely as kids without locking them into these adult labels. So I don't, anytime somebody says that, I'm like, trans kid, I'm like, not really a thing. You're putting an adult label on them. Okay, I've got another one. This is another protester at one of these hands-off events. It's like, what, again, these are, I would say these are typical these are not fringe. This is what most of the people there are like. Listen to this lady.
All you have to do is look at.
Hold on. Oh, the sound's not loud enough.
To polls, look at the elections.
Trump has his highest approval rating yet right now.
Seriously?
So this lady says, what you have to do is you have to look at the polls, you have to look at the election. And the interviewer, who's a woman, also says, well, actually, Trump has his highest approval rating currently, like right now. And this woman doesn't know that. Again, they're in a bubble. She's like, really? Yes, we're very happy. You guys keep saying we have buyer's remorse. We don't. We're like psyched. I just want it to go further. Like we're psyched. There are some things I disagree with. There's some hires I don't like. I don't like him having people in his administration who try to associate him with predators like Andrew Tate, Alina Habba, but he moved her out after she made those comments. So that's good. I don't like Richard Grenell. There's several of his hires I don't like. I don't like this move to try and make so-called anti-Semitic speech illegal. I'm a free speech absolutist. So although I recognize that there is an increase in anti-Semitic speech, there is, but I don't think the answer is banning speech. I don't think that's how you fight that. So there are certain things I disagree with, and we could probably find common ground on, leftists. But in general, I'm very happy with my voting choice. I'm very happy with a lot of things he's doing. And in general, like, we don't have buyer's remorse. I don't know why you guys think that we do. But yeah, this woman is shocked that he's got his highest approval rating right now. And we'll continue. I'm going to tell you more of what she says.
No. So what parts of the federal
Well, she says no, like she doesn't believe it.
cuts that Elon Musk is making are you against? Everything.
This is great. The woman asked her what parts of the federal cuts that Elon Musk is helping to make, like what parts of these cuts do you disagree with? And without a beat, she says everything. Okay, that tells you right there. I don't care what side you're on. I don't care who does this, who engages in this. That tells you right there, this person is a liar. What do I mean by liar? I mean, they haven't done the research. They don't have the information to answer. When they say everything, they don't know. They can't name one thing, so they say everything. They haven't done enough research to name one thing, so they say everything. I'm going to give you an example from the quote unquote other side. Do you remember when Sarah Palin was running? Do you remember back to Sarah Palin? I can see Alaska from my house, Sarah Palin. Do you remember that interview where the reporter asked her, what are some of your favorite magazines or books? And she said, all of them. And they were like, what do you read regularly? What newspapers do you read to stay informed? She said, all of them. She couldn't think of one. That's this lady doing the Sarah Palin, doing the same thing, but from quote unquote the other side. It's like, which of the cuts do you have a problem with? Everything. Okay. Just all the things, Hefty Joe. Exactly. It's a sign of a liar. It's a sign of someone who does not know what they're talking about. Okay, so then the interviewer asked her,
against them finding the fraud in like Social Security.
She says, are you against them finding the fraud in Social Security? And look at this lady's response.
What? There is no fraud. All you have to do is look.
She goes, what? There is no fraud. Again, this lady doesn't know anything. You have no idea she has no idea what's going on. She doesn't know what she disagrees with. She can't name one thing. She just says everything. She mistakenly believes that there's no fraud in Social Security. Who believes something like that? What honest person would say that? She doesn't know that Trump's approval rating is high. Like, you have no idea what time it is, what day it is. You have no idea what's happening in the world, and yet you have enough arrogance that arrogance alone is enough to carry you outside with a handmade sign or a sign that was bought for you. And you have enough arrogance to walk around with that sign and deign to tell people your opinions that are based on nothing. This is how we view you guys. This is how we view you. I'm trying to give you a perspective into how we view you, because we know how you view us. We hear it all the time. We know. It's fine how you view us. Sienna Carmody, this is like everyone I know. Yes, this is what they are like. And you can't scratch the surface with them and ask them for anything specific because they don't know, and they get really uncomfortable and they get emotional, usually angry or defensive, or sometimes like sometimes hysterical. You'll see a lot of these man on the street interviews, when you ask them questions, they go that emotional place very quickly, and it's an uncomfortableness with, it's almost like because it's almost like deep down, that your opinions you can't defend them, that you didn't build them on a strong foundation brick by brick. You didn't get there brick by brick of looking at the evidence and coming to that opinion on your own. Somebody handed it to you. It has no foundation. And so when you're asked to defend it, or somebody asks you like, well, give me a specific example of what you disagree with. Everything. How dare you ask me? It's like, well, because I want to understand you better. Yeah. Emo trash. I like how she said, what? Like that one minion. Surly unicorn. The government wouldn't lie to me. Oh, my sweet summer child. Right? Yeah, it is sad. I know people in the chat are saying this is sad. It is. And I'm going to wrap it up here, I think. I've showed you 2 of the protesters. Oh, let me show you just one more. This is a guy, I've just started following him. He was on the left. Tell me if you know him better than I do, if you're more familiar with him than I am, if I get some of this wrong. But he also was on the left, lifelong, just now woke up, just now came over, voted for Trump in 2020, Matt Van Swall. And I've been following him. He's got some really interesting stuff to say. And if you know more about him than I do, let me know. Anyway, some people were like, oh, you got to check this guy out. He just woke up, right? So he's getting a lot of hate. They've actually doxed him. They've done SWATs. Those of you on the left, those of you who are good, well-intentioned, you don't know these things happen. This is the risk you face. He's been swatted. That means that angry leftists, people who are angry that he left the left, that he voted for Trump, that he's becoming high profile, they call the police and they do phony reports where they say there's somebody at this address who's threatening to kill people, and the police, the SWAT team shows up with their guns drawn. They're hoping to get him killed, basically, by calling the SWAT team to his house. That's been happening to him. So these are the kinds of things we face when we speak against the woke left, right? Like, these are the different kinds of things that happen to people that maybe you're not familiar with. It's not just censorship. There's people like him who are facing actual violent threats. He has kids. He has kids and a wife, and they sent the SWAT to his house. But anyway, he's shared some pictures from North Carolina. He says, this is a high-resolution image of the anti-Trump protests in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. What jumps out to you immediately about this photo? And of course, if you look at the photo, it's what we were talking about. It's all boomers. It's all like they've lost the youth, and it's all mostly white people who are being manipulated by the corporate media. These are people who still put trust and faith in the government, in our institutions, in the media. They put trust and faith there that honestly these institutions haven't earned, or that they've lost. And I feel bad for these people. I do, because I know a lot of them are probably well-intentioned. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And they're being used and manipulated to protect the status quo, to fight against reducing the size of government, stopping government overreach, stopping the pillaging of Social Security. A lot of those older people are out there with signs saying, hands off my Social Security. Dude, we're trying to make sure your Social Security is protected. That's what we're trying to do. You are being swindled and lied to and manipulated. And I feel for you. Okay. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I've got, let's see. Do I have a couple of people I think I need to thank, including ADL 1992 for $4.99. Thank you so much, dude. Thanks for your generous super chat. He says, rich kids in the 1995. Do you love my Prada bag? Rich kids in 2025. Don't you love my new black friend? Pretty much, yes. Therese, our mod, had to leave to go to Knit Night. Knit Night's happening tonight. You guys go check it out if you've never seen it. I love those ladies and gentlemen. John Thomas for $10. Thank you, John Thomas. He says, disappeared in quotes. Insert the you keep using that word meme. To all the right attacking Trump on this, if you invite someone over to your house and they insult you constantly, do you let them stay? Exactly. I agree with you, dude. Your average patriot nerd. Thank you. Gifted 5 memberships, Deprogrammed memberships. You guys, thank your average patriot nerd if you got one of those. Thanks for your generosity and for supporting Deprogrammed. John Thomas for $5 says, this is AstroTurf from the overwhelming pre-printed signs versus a Trump rally. What network was the reporter from? She's delusional. Oh, she was from Democracy Now!, John Thomas. That was Amy Goodman. I used to listen to her all the time. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they had a lot of the pre-printed signs. To their credit, I saw more of the handmade signs this time than usual. I think the memo went out that we have to make them look handmade because they were using too many of the pre-printed ones. Okay, guys, I've enjoyed hanging out with you. Godspeed, says Deconstruct. I missed you guys the week we were on the road. Thank you for your patience and for being understanding when we've got life stuff going on. I've got more interviews coming out. If you like the show, hit subscribe, hit the like button. And if you think that this is an episode you could share with your friends or family on the left, please do. I'm trying to keep that in mind of sharing with people on the left and inviting them in rather than pushing them further away. So my husband says, I used to contribute to Democracy Now! If people are not familiar with Aaron Mate, he talks about having worked there for a while. Yep. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. We will be back. We'll be back on Wednesday, and we're back to regular schedule now, basically. Plus, I'm going to have some interviews thrown in, and I'm trying out these shorts. I feel like an old fogey. Speaking of boomers, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to have to figure out how to do YouTube shorts, but I'm trying out shorts. I just put up a clip. It was from the Jubilee discussion that I did, and I think it's a good example of how to speak to people one-on-one because it's really different. So go watch it. Go watch the short. If you like it, share it with a leftist. It's about leaving the woke cult. And it was me talking to people who are on the left. And it's very different. When I talk to people one-on-one, it's very different than in a podcast or in a tweet or an essay or something. Because one-on-one, you have that person right in front of you, and you're going to phrase things differently so they can hear you than, a lot of times I'm much more strident when I'm speaking generally to everyone in an essay or video, or I'm much more strident than I am in one-on-one. It's like a tennis match. They're saying things, you're reacting to them, they're reacting to you. So it's a lot more, I would say, loving, and it's a lot more gentle, maybe. So go and check out those shorts, and if you like them, those might be something better for you to share with people on the left because of that more gentle one-on-one kind of nature. So, okay. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Take care. Bye-bye.